Well, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. This is Angela Jordan Perry, and I am your host with Girlfriends' Guide to Homeschooling. So we are here again and to continue our conversation that we've had over these last few days. Let me just let you know what Girlfriends' Guide to Homeschooling is all about, okay? So, the idea of Girlfriends' Guide to Homeschooling is to provide an opportunity for girlfriends to get together who are in the like situation of homeschooling, just to discuss some conversation and topics that are homeschool related in a broad sense and scope of conversation. So just not books and just not how-tos, but those conversations that are pertinent to where we are and what we deal with as homeschool moms, because it's Girlfriends' Guide. So homeschooling in general, so I will tend to go into conversations that you won't necessarily find in the homeschool arena. It will not be pertinent to a particular state. So if you don't live in the state in which I live in, we can still have our conversation over homeschooling. It's to support us as homeschooling parents, mothers, particularly in our journey as a whole. So I want to be your girlfriend who does that. And so on this topic that we're talking about right now, this little series, I have one more part to it. I think it's just one more part. But before I get started, I just want to ask you to go ahead and share this link on your Facebook page, so those who you have no clue may be interested in this topic or Girlfriends' Guide to Homeschooling can get connected, okay? So if you're joining me with Facebook, thank you so much for all your thumbs up, your hearts, your love, your reaction, your comments. I will respond and read those. And then also here on Facebook, if you're looking at it by replay, still comments, thumbs up, hearts, all of that is great to see and know that you're connected. Now, if Facebook jumps a lot, skips, etc., all of that, then jump on over to my YouTube channel at Girlfriends' Guide to Homeschooling. Be sure to subscribe there. And be sure to follow me on Facebook on this Girlfriends' Guide to Homeschooling page, so that when I go live, you can get notifications. Like someone just joined me because they got a notification. They were on here. And then also you can comment with me live here on the chat. Now, we are on part 3. Oh, let me tell you again, I'm Angela Jordan Perry. So if you don't know who, you didn't get my name, but Angela Jordan Perry, and I am your girlfriend out of South Carolina. I'm a homeschool mom of 8 children, and I have been homeschooling for 17 years with 11 more years, is that right? 12 more years to go. And so that's just of it. Married for almost 25 years, come in July. So that's a little bit about me. As you can see, let's see, hair, have glasses, brown skin. We're farmers, so trying to think of quick things. I'm a follower of Christ, so that's my heart, my passion, and my faith. So with that said, this week we have been on a topic that can be very touchy, but you know what? It's okay to touch touchy subjects. And the fact that we don't often touch these touchy subjects, and as one person said, we don't want to stir the pot. We just want to keep sweeping stuff under the rug. Nothing gets resolved. There's no resolve. My daughter is a violinist. I have 3 violinists. My third oldest wants to become a professional violinist. And as she plays music, and if you know anything about music, you can play this beautiful, beautiful piece. It's amazing. It's full of energy and movement and emotion. But if there's not a resolve to the music, you feel like, oh my goodness, what just happened? Please go back and finish this music off, right? So if there's no resolve to this conversation of racism, then it's always going to be in the air. And there's going to be this, oh my goodness, here we go again, the elephant in the room. And so one of the topics that is not often discussed, racism is on the rise in life in general. But as it relates to homeschooling, it is not something that's talked about, even brought up. And you can watch my other video to find out my story and my homeschooling journey as a brown-skinned person, as a brown-skinned family, coming into this area of South Carolina in the South, and just the warm welcome that we received in homeschooling circles. So that was a bit of sarcasm. So today's topic I want to talk about is choosing the perfect racist homeschool curriculum for your homeschool. So the focus is racist homeschooling part 3, choosing the perfect racist curriculum for your homeschool. And so although it may sound like I'm making light of it, you know, when I talk, I'm also talking about myself too. And sometimes we do things that is unknowingly done, but here I'm bringing awareness to it, not to point a finger necessarily, but to have us to think and open our eyes to say, oh my goodness, I've been closed-eyed and have not been looking at things as a whole. So on this subject, you know, one of the biggest areas, let me define racism. Let's go back. Let me define what racism is so we can be on the same plane, you know, understanding here, because everyone have a different definition. So racism's definition is seeing yourself superior over other races. Seeing yourself as the superior race over other races, ethnicities. And also in such a way that you do not care to connect, join, or be in connection or relationship with other races, because either you see them in some way or your mindset or what you have heard about them has caused you to be like, nope, don't want to have anything to do with those folks. And you can often tell people who have this racist mindset because they often refer themselves to us and them, or us and they, or, you know, and that type of thing. Listen for that terminology, because it's that separation from them, and that's instead of identifying, you know, people of color and Caucasians, or, you know, or something. You can always hear the tone and the voice of that. That lets you know, all right, we're dealing with some issues of superiority, and the way in which they talk to other races, you can hear it, this tone of superiority. And so this is something that we have experienced in our homeschool sphere of life here and where we are. And for those who know me and connected to me here, you know, that may be kind of strange and take them aback, but, you know, again, not pointing fingers. And perhaps where you're living, I'm just curious to know if you've experienced that where you're living in your neck of the woods. Have it been very receptive to all races? Has there been a clear divide? Is there a desegregation that's there and no one says anything? It's just there, and there's no opportunity to bring connection or no effort to bring this connection. So how do you choose the perfect racist curriculum? Yeah, it's easy. It's so easy. Find books and curriculum that only focuses on your race, and you just focus on that. Teach your children your race, your superiority. Whether you're saying you're superior or not, if your curriculum justifies that it is, then you have the perfect racist curriculum. Let me give you some example. The biggest one I can jump off on is history, okay? So, you know, history shapes a person's mindset. It shapes our views about how things were in the past. It also shapes and gives us a view about how we see the world and truth that is put out there about different ethnicities, about just things that has happened, okay? So, you know, in our homeschool curriculum, I would say when we first got started, we started with Abeka, all things Abeka. I love Abeka. I still use Abeka on some subjects. But one of the subjects that really just grated me, and this is not pointing at Abeka, but it's just giving awareness to that. Now, you may say, oh, Abeka history is amazing. It's great. And, you know, perhaps, yes, in some ways. But when you use your first grade book history, second grade book history, third grade book history, fourth grade book history, I think that's as far as we got until I said, wait a minute, there's a trend here. is talking about and edifying these same people in history and edifying these same two African Americans or brown skinned people in history. Those two were George Washington Carver and what was the other one? Booker T. Washington. Those are the two that was always mentioned in history book. But as a whole, the history always, yes, being American history, U.S. history, but it talked about these same races and as they were superior. And as I would sit and teach my children this history over and over again, granted, yes, it's the history, but it's this part of history. And I just would look at my kids. I just will never forget. I looked at them as I was reading this, and I thought, there is nothing identifying them in history at all. OMG, what in the world? And so that took me on a quest. I need to change history. It's not identifying no other ethnicity than the Caucasian ethnicity, and which then portrays them as Caucasians as superior because they've done this. They're the backbone of the country. They did this and this and this and this and this. And they only depict it, for me in my situation. Now, if you're Hispanic, you're going to see it a different way. If you're Arabic, you're going to see it a different way. And you have your own stories to tell in it. But as a brown skin family, it depicted us as only we're slaves, and that's where we were, and that's how our history. We were owners of someone, and then even that, it was just a little tad piece of it. But Booker T. Washington, George Washington Carver, good gravy. Look at the things they've done, you know. But the history is so much greater and huger. And I realized that right there, I had curriculum that did not extend information across the board to all races. Okay. All right. That's the biggest thing. History books. What are your history books speaking to your children? Are they giving one view? And if you're okay with that, great. But if you're not, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, I read a blog post last night from a Caucasian perspective, and how they were being taught, and they said it from a racist viewpoint. And as they got older, their eyes were open to, oh my goodness, look at what I've been teaching all this time. And actually, this person, I can't remember if it was a guy or girl. I'm sorry, I just read it and just felt for this person, but they were in the third grade, and that's when it really started connecting, clicking. This is when they first had their memory of learning and seeing that their curriculum that they were taught and the information they were given was erroneous at best, or just half truths. They themselves now is a third grade teacher. I don't remember the subject, but I guess in third grade you teach all subjects. But he or her, their driving point at this time of their life was to make sure that their students, her students had, of all races in his class, I say him for now, in his class, had history on a broad spectrum that covered all the races and representation, for the positive and any negative, all the good and bad. And so in our homeschool curriculum, what are we choosing? We have a plethora of possibilities. Plethora, and kudos to those who are doing classical studies, who are using tapestry of grace. And that's what we eventually fell into, tapestry of grace, because they interwove in the deepness of all the history without leaving out. I mean, it's a lot of history. History is, abundant, but they covered a lot that was there and not sugarcoated it, not shaded it, gave the suggestions of the books to use, and boom, you just went into it. So that was tapestry of grace for us. And then even in literature, let's go to literature. That another perfect place to choose your racist curriculum is in your literature field. Literature is, again, broad. And again, this hit me like a ton of bricks when I realized, what literature am I giving my kids? Only one view. Oh my goodness. Okay, we can get into world literature. That hits everything. But for us, we dove deep into African literature. What are your people. Make sure your literature that you give is going to represent your race as well. It doesn't have to be just the one that seems to be the superior race in literature. You know, Indian literature. Oh my goodness. You know, I mean, it goes on. Of course, I want you know, demean your intelligence here, but for us, we dove into African American literature, and my kids read books and read perspectives from, you know, from brown skinned people who represent them, saw pictures of themselves in books. You know, it's nothing for us to pull out books that depict light-skinned people or Caucasians. Is nothing. It's there in plenty, in abundance. But for us to go to now and see, oh, Indian literature. Wow, who knew? You know, and goes on and on and on. So that's another place that you can choose your perfect racist curriculum in literature, in history. You know, when we talk about your math and your sciences, you know, that doesn't necessarily get into a bit of racist form and shaping there. But, you know, just be careful. You know, is your science book depicting brown-skinned people as related to apes? My kids over there probably like, what? What are you saying? They're having breakfast. Yeah. And so those are type of things I try and shield my kids from. And at a certain point in their lives, now open them up to it so they won't be surprised when they see that there are people in science who believe that African Americans are related to apes. And that's we formed and morphed from that. All right. Yeah, this is a hard subject. And it's a hard conversation in our homeschooling sphere. But this is the likes of racist homeschooling. And if that is not your heart's desire and purpose, then I want to bring awareness for you to consider changing it up. Change it up. If you have an academy or co-op, and this is from my other video like I do, then make sure in some way that curriculum that's being taught represent races, all races or many races. I mean, you can't perhaps do all, but one year, one focus, another, different ethnicities being represented. Because if not, you're shaping. We have power. And one of my posts I did today for a homeschool morning nugget, it says, we have the power as parents. We do. And with that great power comes with great responsibility. And we have the power to shape and impart that knowledge and insight that we want to have into our kids. And that's why we homeschool, rightfully so. We get to choose that. But my awareness I want to make to you that if your intention is never to have your perfect racist curriculum in your homeschool, then look at other options or add in other options that's going to show a broader sense of representation in your history, in your literature, in your math books. If you have pictures or what have you there, you're like, really, Angela, math? Yeah, you know, be careful, just be aware and give attention to that. You know, your math and your science and grammar and government, you know, be careful of that, because even in government, we can bring a superiority to a race and a lessening and lowering to other races. In your economics and whatever, and whatever that subject is. So that's my point of just bringing awareness to this. Are we choosing the perfect racist curriculum for our homeschool families? Are we doing that? Then we may want to make sure, we should, for the most part, who has the same heartbeat, was like, nope, I don't want to be a part of that. I want my kids to see something different. Let's make a change. Let's change it up. You know, let's see, anything else I wanted to point on here? Oh, just so much. But for now, that gives you, again, just some nuggets to think on and to consider. And, you know, the other thing I will end here, and I will end on the last video. I think I'm going to do just a part 4 after this, is that in dialoguing, as I mentioned before, it exposes. I am all about bringing things to light. Anything that's kept in the dark, it just can grow and become, you know, moldy. Anything that's kind of just in the dark. And think about mold, and think about, you know, your refrigerator that has stuff in the back, and when the light turns off, it's dark, and it's just being there and festering and growing. It becomes ugly, and it's a stench. And I think right now, but in our society right now, this thing about race and segregation is a stench. It's just been kind of kept in the back in the dark. So if we bring the light to it and open up that can and say, oh, yuck, let's dump this thing out and let's start again. Let's get something else fresh going here. It's only going to happen when you actually go and look at it and dialogue and connect and talk about it. That's the only time something's going to come to light and be cleaned up and cleared up. So I want to encourage you not to feel like, oh, the fingers are being pointed at you. But if they are, then say, okay, and, you know, deal with it. Contemplate it. I had to think about it myself too. You know, we all should, because it's our kids that's going to reap the fruit of it. They're going to reap it. Either they're going to perpetuate what we're teaching and what they're being shaped in, or they're going to be enlightened to say, wow, one day I don't want to do what my parents did and teach the way my parents did in my homeschool. So we can add the good to their journey, or cause them to say, I don't want that. I want it to look like this. And we do want them to do that in some aspects. But when it comes to race, let's be the ones who are spearheading the change of thought, the change of vision, the curriculum that we choose. And that even in our Bible study, if I only have, this is going to go back as another study in curriculum choosing. If my books only depict a lily white Jesus with blue eyes and blonde hair, I've done my kids a disservice, because that is what has always been depicted. And if you don't follow the Bible, that's fine. And whatever it is your faith is. But if it depicts a certain thing that's erroneous, it needs to be corrected and brought back to light, and the truth being put there. Okay. So if this has been any value to you, wonderful. If it's been valuable, but you're negating that it's been valuable, you have to deal with that. If you like to have more dialogue about this, girlfriends, let's do so. Give me some comments. Post your thoughts. If it's just grating against your skin, I'm sorry. This is where we live in the real world, and we're doing not a good job at discussing it, but we're trying to make strides here. And so now in homeschooling, we need to bring this to the attention too, because it's just too many. Let me tell you, the increase of different ethnicities that are homeschooling is on the rise. You can just do your searching. You can see that is on the rise. And if this is not even dealt with in our homeschool circles, we're going to begin to continue with this separation and this racist mentality coming into homeschool, where it's a precious place where it doesn't have to be. You know, homeschooling is not perfect, but it can be so shaped and formed in such a beautiful way. And we get to play a part of that. No one's making us, you know, there's no legislation that's making us do that. It's us taking up the reins and saying, we're going to make this look different than what's here, because we're homeschoolers and we want the best for our kids. So, all right. So with that said, I'm going to get ready to head out of here. It's been great to be with you for this part 3 of Racist Homeschooling. And again, I'm Angela Jordan Perry. If you would like to send me an email, you can do so at gg2 homeschooling@gmail.com. You can visit my website at www.uchunlimited.com, and find some of my blog posts there and just see what I'm up to there. And also, you can continue to follow me on Facebook at Girlfriends' Guide to Homeschooling, and subscribe to my YouTube channel at Girlfriends' Guide to Homeschooling. Okay. So thanks again. You all have a great day. Wonderful day of homeschooling. I'm your girlfriend here. I'm going to go drink my coffee. and get ready to start my day here with my kiddos. All right. God bless y'all. Have a great one. Bye-bye.